Today marks the 100th video since I started Deke Now. To celebrate, I decided to make something special for you, which is why today I'm going to show you not only how I made this shirt, but how you too can design great merch. It's a win-win. The obvious first step is to figure out how big your artwork needs to be. So I'm seeing 12 inches wide by 14.4 inches tall. That's going to be a maximum. By the way, don't go any bigger than that. And they're looking for pixel-based artwork as opposed to an SVG file, something like that. So in other words, a PNG or a JPEG. Ping's best, and they're saying the resolution should be a standard res, which is 300 pixels per inch, not DPI. It doesn't matter, that's semantics. And so I went ahead and drew my artwork inside Illustrator. All I'm going to tell you is this does measure 12 inches wide by 14.4 inches tall. I know a lot of you are not Illustrator fans, and that's fine. If you are and you're interested in how I put this artwork together, then check out my Patreon, which is patreon.com/DekeNow. Otherwise, all you need to know is this. Each one of these lines is 2 points thick. See that stroke up here at the top of the screen? And that's important because you want to make sure that your line art holds up. I wouldn't go any thinner than 2 points, but that is entirely up to you. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the edit menu, actually the select menu, and choose all, because I want to choose all of the artwork, that is selected all. Then I'll go to the edit menu and choose copy. So I just need to make sure I copy all of the artwork. And now here I am inside Photoshop. Could be some other image editing program. Affinity Photo is going to work just fine. And so I'll go up to the file menu and choose the new command. And I am going to start at art in illustration, just a good point to start. And that way I already have a resolution of 300 pixels per inch, by the way. And now you don't want to dial in pixels because it didn't tell me how many pixels to use. It told me inches. I could also find out millimeters, but you want a physical unit, such as inches or millimeters. I'm going to go with inches, and I'm just going to do what it told me to do. 12 inches wide by 14.4 inches tall. And that's it. Otherwise, 300 pixels per inch, that's good. I want the background to be black. I'm assuming you're going with a dark t-shirt or what have you. The way I have things set up that I'm going to show you, it could be any color t-shirt. It's just I'm assuming dark t-shirt, light design. You would just invert things, if you will, if you want to print on a white t-shirt. I can't imagine, but still. Anyway, black is what I'm going to go with. The rest of the stuff doesn't matter. Click Create, and you've got yourself a black background on which to work. All right, next what you want to do is go up to the Edit menu and choose Paste. That's it. That way you're going to paste in that artwork. Now, Photoshop, when you're pasting in vector-based artwork from Illustrator, it wants to know how you want to paste it in. If I were working in Affinity Photo, it's not going to ask me about this, but I'm just going to go with Smart Object. That's the best way to go with Photoshop. That way, after I accept the size, notice it's already sized and ready to go. But if I change my mind, then I could just double click on this guy. You know what? I'll just change the name of this to AI artwork. That way I know it comes from Illustrator. And if I want to make any changes to my design, I would just double click on this thumbnail. That would open Illustrator. Then I'd make my changes and save it back to Photoshop. All right, now here's where things get a little tricky. First of all, I forgot this step almost. This one just burns me up. Let's say, just go ahead and take a really close inspection of your artwork. In my case, look at how jagged it is. And you can run into this problem in Photoshop more often than not, it seems like. But you see what I'm saying, right? It should be nice and smooth. It's not. And so what I have to do is go to the Edit menu and choose, if you run into this problem, go to the Edit menu and choose Free Transform. And that way you'll see this anti-alias checkbox. Sometimes it gets turned off. I don't know why. I cannot figure this out. Stop doing that. It seems to be a default setting. Turn it on. It won't look any different at first, but now press the Enter key to accept the change. And notice now it got all smooth. I tell you, that one's killer. That one will ruin your artwork if you skip that step. I'm just telling you. Wow, it frustrates me so much. Okay, now for the part that might seem a little confusing, but you got to do this. For example, right now, if I submitted the art this way, white on a black background, even if I plan on printing to a black t-shirt, they don't need the black part because they're in charge of the black. You understand? They just put a blank t-shirt into the printing device and away they go. right? And it could be black, it could be charcoal gray, you could go with navy, you could go with all kinds of colors. If you follow these next steps, it doesn't matter what that background is. And by the way, the solution is not just to turn off the black background, and that's because your design, like mine, may contain black fills. And so here's what you do. You create a new layer, and I'm going to do that by pressing Control-Shift-N. Command-Shift-N on the Mac, that way I can name it, and I'm going to call it front art, let's say, or whatever you want to call it. You just have to have a pixel-based layer. Now, what you want to do is switch. This is, I just swear to you, you got to do this. It's weird, but just believe me, won't you? Go up to the window menu and choose the channels command. And then notice we've got our channels. Now what you do is you press the control key, command key on the Mac. Notice what happened to the cursor. It went from being a pointing finger to a pointing finger with the little marquee. Now with the control or command key down, click. Doesn't matter what you click on, just click any of these items. RGB, red, green, or blue, doesn't matter. Now you get a selection outline. Return to the layers panel, turn off those bottom two layers, you don't need them. You'll just see a transparency checkerboard like so. My checkerboard is gray, so I can see what I'm doing better. You can change that if you want to. And now I tap the D key, so my foreground color is white, black. That's black, isn't it? And my background color is white. And so I want to fill the selection with white, so I'd press Control Backspace. That's a Command Delete on the Mac. Now those steps are going to be a little different in Affinity Photo, but you'll figure it out. But it's very important because what you want, notice now it's deselected, you want white artwork against transparency. That way it'll go against any fabric color. If you want a Scottish kilt, it'll go against that. You're guaranteed that this is going to work. And now all you got to do with this right here is you go up to the File menu. This is the simple part. Go to Export and then go to Quick Export as Ping. That's it. And now there it is right there. I'll just replace this guy. So I'm calling it Ghost Robot because that's him. T-shirt front. Might as well identify it as the front of the t-shirt design. Click Save. Notice it's a Ping. Click Save. And that will save over. So just click yes. I'm just, saving over the original file. And now I'll just go ahead and open it up so you can see there it is. And I just want you to see there it looks exactly like it did a moment ago against that transparent background. Hey, real quick, do you want to see this great merch up close and personal? You can get this t-shirt right now at deek.one/store. And members of my Patreon get 10% off, plus an exclusive behind the scenes look at how I created my Ghost Robot design. You can sign up right now at patreon.com/deeknow. I spent a while working on this design and the logistics of making this t-shirt, so I really hope you enjoy. All right, so that's the front of the design. How about the back? Well, I want it to read like this, Deek Now, with some of the text white and some of the text outline, and that takes a little bit of extra work inside Photoshop. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and toss the image down a little bit here. And I don't really need to see the robot anymore, but I will turn on that black background. And I'll go ahead and select the type tool. And notice that I have some formatting attributes established up here, including font and so forth. I'm going to make sure that it's centered, and I'll switch the color to white. And then I'll just go ahead and click, and I'll enter in my text like so. And it's everything I want it to be. This is great, except for it's not even sort of the right size, and you can't really get that to stick up front. So I'll change it after the fact to 76 points, and it's nice and big. And this is very cool. However, if in order to establish, this isn't going to line up properly, but you'll get the idea. What I want is these mitered corners right here, nice and sharp on the word now. And if I were to assign a stroke effect inside Photoshop, they'd be rounded, which would be a problem. So I either have to do this in Illustrator, which I don't want to do. I want to do it in Photoshop, or I have to convert the text to shapes, to vector-based shapes, which is what I'm going to do. So I'll go ahead and make a copy of this layer, jump it by pressing Control-J, Command-J on the Mac, and turn off the original. That way I can always come back to the editable text if I want to. Now what I'm going to do is first of all, I'm going to go up to the Type menu and choose Convert to Shape. and that'll convert it to a shape layer. Do you see that? It's got a little sort of rectangle in the bottom, a little square. And now I'm going to go ahead and call this guy just Deke. And that's because I need one layer for the word Deke and another for the word now. And that's because shape layers can only accommodate one set of fills and strokes at a time. And so I'll press Control J again. Command J on the Mac, and I'll call this guy now so I can keep track of him. And so I'll go back to Deke and turn off the now layer, and I will switch to my black arrow tool right there. This guy, path selection tool if you prefer. And then you marquee the now and get rid of it. We don't want that. And now turn on the now layer, turn off the Deke layer just so we can keep track of things. Make sure it's selected, and then marquee Deke and get rid of that. And so, obviously you're not going to be doing Deke now. I understand that. Whatever words you're working with. And so I've now got them on separate layers. You see that, right? All right, now with now selected, because I want it to be outlined, I'll go ahead and change the fill to nothing, because that will make it black. And for a moment, we won't really be able to see it, except for, the preview of the path outlines. And now I'll change the stroke to white. I've only created white swatches about 1,000,000 times now. So there it is. And then I will change the line weight to 2. That's pretty skinny, isn't it? But I want it on the outside, by the way, so I'd click on this bar and click Align and then change it to the outside. This guy right there. And now it's on the outside, but it still doesn't look right. Remember that the robot has 2-point outlines. Well, that's the problem. These are 2-pixel outlines. What I want to do is change the X to a T. Watch what happens to that stroke. It gets way thicker. And that's because it's now 2 points thick. And it's on the outside, and it has a nice miter join, and everything's the way I want it to be. And now if you feel like you want to kern things, move the letters around, just click on them. Click on the W and just kind of use the arrow keys to nudge it. And I could select both these guys and nudge the O and the W around just to change the spacing. And now I need to figure out a placement. I'll go ahead and zoom out a little bit so I can see the entire width of the document. And what I need to do is actually combine these guys into a single group. So I'll select them, Control G, Command G on the Mac to group them. Call this guy Deke now so I know it's my type. And now my type, yes. And now I'll switch to the Move tool up here at the top of the toolbox. And I'll drag it up to the top just so it snaps into alignment. These are just, don't worry about what I'm doing right now. I'm just moving it to where I want it to be. This is all subjective stuff. But I do want to make sure that it's centered. So I'd go up to the Select menu, choose All. Or I could press Control or Command A, and then I'll select this guy, or I'll click on it. Horizontal centers to center it horizontally, like so. And then I can deselect. Now the problem is, of course, I can't give it to him this way, not with a black background, because I want it to print against charcoal gray or blue or a kilt pattern, all that stuff, paisley. And so what I need to do is with exactly what you're seeing, white type against a black background, go to the channels panel, press the Control key, watch the cursor. As soon as you press the Control key, get the little marquee, and then click with the Control key down. That's a control click, in other words. And so on any of these items, and you've loaded the selection. Now you want to create a new layer, and I'll just go ahead and call it Deke now, like so. You need a new pixel base layer. Turn off these guys, you don't need them, and then fill it with white. Well, I've messed up my foreground and background colors, so I'll just tap the D key. So my background color is white, and I'll press Control Backspace Command Delete on the Mac in order to fill that with white. So it is now ready to go against any background. And notice if I zoom all the way out, it is now where I want it in the 12-inch wide by 14.4-inch tall space. Now all I have to do, this is the easy part, is go up to the File menu and choose Export followed by a Quick Export as Ping. Adobe, here's a little hint. Make everything as easy as this part right here. And now all you have to do is save it. You just have to name it, and otherwise it does everything for you. It's amazing. I'm just saving over the other file that I had created in advance. And now if I open it up just to make sure, it's always a good idea, right? Open up the file you just created, and that way you can see, if I zoom on in and go ahead and scroll up, that I have created white text against an absolutely transparent background for the back of my t-shirt design. So what do you think? Comment down below. Again, if you want to get your hands on this t-shirt, go to Deke.one/store. And to learn how I created the actual vector-based ghost robot in Illustrator, join me at patreon.com/deeknow. Plus, you'll get a discount. And then subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when I cover what. And then go to Deke.com and sign up for my newsletter. That's it. You're done. I'm Deke McClellan. This is Deke Now.